Good morning. I'm Chris Lee at Southeastern 16, joined by Max Barr and Blake Lovell. We're here to react to 5 SEC basketball games from last night. Texas A&M scored a huge upset of Auburn in College Station on a senior night that actually was a senior night. At the same time, we had Kentucky routing LSU. We had Texas pulling the overtime upset of Mississippi State after blowing it in regulation. We had Georgia notching a big road win at South Carolina. Finally, in the nightcap, Arkansas with a very impressive performance. A road win after Vanderbilt, where the Razorbacks looked the complete opposite of the last team we saw in Columbia, South Carolina. Max Barr, we started with the pass to the elbow to you to get us started. I presume we'll go with, with probably the most significant result of the night in some ways. I mean, if you're talking the number one team in the country, that's where we go first. It was also, I think, one of the first two games to tip off. Let's talk about Auburn and Texas A&M. Auburn, of course, playing without Denver Jones and partially without Jani Broome with an injury to the left shoulder. I think now he's hurt the right shoulder, the left shoulder, and one of his ankles. So we just missing one on the bingo card there. Anyway, Max, get us started.
Chris will have him in a wheelchair by an hour from now.
He'll play anyway.
It was a loaded 5-game slate. We were excited for it, and it delivered. The Fighting Texas Aggies, listen. It was about time the Aggies knocked off one of their big-time games this year. Auburn, I think this was much more about Texas A&M grabbing one, stopping the 4-game skid, getting the huge home win on senior night. Did you guys see the clip of Wade Taylor when he got his jersey retired or his jersey in the rafters, and then he's crying in his family's arms, bawling his eyes out? Oh, and then in the post-game press conference, someone, oh man, I forget who it was. I wanted to highlight them because it was a great question, but someone there at the A&M press conference asks Buzz, Andy Garcia, it's senior night here and everyone's here with their families, but Andy's family can't be here and has never watched him play basketball. So what did you guys do for that? And Buzz gets a little choked up, and he was saying how Andy asked Buzz to be his guy, and he was like, well, I got to take a picture with everyone, Andy. And so then Andy had another coach stand by with him, but Andy was saying to the team, I guess the other week, that he doesn't even know where he's going to live at the end of the season because his status as a student at A&M is with his visa to be in the U.S., so he doesn't know what's going to happen to him after he graduates. So I give you that long spiel basically just to say it was one of the most emotional nights I've seen in this sport in some time with A&M. They had all those seniors that had been there for 4 or 5 years. So I was happy for them to get it. We can break the game down, but I just wanted to start out by saying I think this was much more A&M won this game rather than Auburn looked terrible and lost or something like that. I think the storyline here mainly is with A&M.
I mean, I saw a lot of people calling this a shocking upset, and I just don't agree with that. I mean, I think, Max, we said coming in they were due. Wasn't that our entire preview, was that we're not going to pick them because we're not going to pick the team that's lost 4 games in a row and, no longer looks like a top 10 team like they did 3 weeks ago. But I don't think it was a shocking upset knowing that Denver Jones wasn't playing, that A&M was only, 4-point underdog, something like that. And they had been waiting for one of those just big Buzz Williams home wins all season because they hadn't got one yet. And so I think from that standpoint, if you put it all together, I mean, we know where the Texas A&M money line bet came on this broadcast. I thought it was one of those where, again, to me, this said a lot more about A&M than it did about Auburn, because I just felt like they were in a position where they had to win this game. And if there's anything we've learned over the past 2 weeks in SEC play, motivation for these teams has kicked in, especially for the bubble teams, for a desperate Texas A&M team. Not to say Auburn wasn't motivated, but, I mean, A&M had every reason to look at this game and think, man, we don't win this game. All of a sudden, we're playing Pulikitas and Yale. We're playing the Tritons of San Diego in the 5-12 game, and we're going home. So, plenty of motivation. I think that was obviously their biggest win of the season, but I think it said a lot more about the Aggies sort of realizing, hey, we got to win this game. And they did.
Yeah, if you're looking for cool senior night celebrations, I'm sure Max probably saw the Houston one. That's pretty neat too. Just going to throw that in there. You can go find that one out there on YouTube. But I think for A&M, look, they kind of did the things they did well. They got 16 extra rebounds, won the turnovers. They were +2 there. When you do that, you just need to shoot it okay. And if you're going 9 of 25 from 3 like A&M did, you'll certainly take that. I think Phelps coming off the bench, that worked for them last night. He's the high scorer. Yeah, I mean, A&M did this a year ago, right? That they were awful at the end of February. And then right when the calendar flipped to March, we watched a different team. The offense looked a lot different. Just because it happened, the next year doesn't mean it's going to happen again. But I just, as I'm watching that game, I'm thinking, hey, I feel like we just saw this time a year ago.
Max, we said that in the preview, I think. We said they lost 5 in a row last year, and they went on a tear. Now they lost 4 in a row, and now getting the big game, which I feel like last year they got the big game, and that's where it turned around. So it's the exact same, it feels like.
Yep, and it was the start to the game that really, because I don't think Auburn ever led in this game. It was the start. A&M finishes with 9 3-pointers made. About 5 of them had to be in like that first 10 minutes because you had Obaseki made a few. I know Anderson Garcia made he had one where it was like a pump fake sidestep reload 3, and I'm like, whoa, Andy Garcia, what, shaking and baking out there on the perimeter, splashing 3s. So you even had Solo Washington hit one. You had so the 3 ball falling really early, giving A&M the lead initially. That was bigger than anything for them to be able to play with that lead, then really, slow the game down, lock into the boards. They 60% offensive rebounding percentage. They rebounded 60% of their misses. Just chuck it up off the backboard more than half the time they were coming down with it. And then they also had one of their best games, assist to turnover ratio, 16 assists, only 11 turnovers. That's usually reversed when we're looking at the A&M box scores after the game. I don't want to put too much into it though, because obviously in a game as physical as this, Denver Jones would have been a massive piece, absolutely massive piece. But guys, I also want to talk about Janai Broome. I mean, that's a storyline here. That's got to be a storyline here. Now, back-to-back single-digit outputs, and he's been grabbing on that shoulder now. He's starting to look like he's even in more discomfort here.
Oh, wait, you mean sometimes when people get hurt, it affects performance?
Oh, my gosh.
Who knew? I do. Well, that aside, I watch him. He looks like he's a little rushed with his shot sometimes. Like
something's off.
And this guy, that's what I'm getting at. Like he was sped up. And that got mentioned on the broadcast last night. I kind of noticed it too.
I think I texted Blake. I think I texted you during it, and I was like, Broome looks like he's at like 80%. It's like we're just getting like 80% of Broome, which is still really good, but you get the feeling something's off.
Never seen anybody get so excited about an injury.
What is
Denver
Jones's
Hold on a second.
ailment?
$20 super chat from Joshua. Before we get to the Kentucky and Arkansas games, Joshua likes to shout out the Kentucky friends who give the Hogs all the motivation they need. So we'll get to that shortly, but we appreciate Joshua for the contributions.
Denver Jones he'll be fine.
Okay. I just didn't know.
That's not what I heard.
Really?
All right.
Oh gosh. Why did I even? That was hook, line, and sinker right there.
He's gonna be fine. He'll be back soon. If not Saturday, he'll be ready for the tournament.
I walked
injured right
into
ankle.
He'll be fine.
Shall we talk Kentucky? A blowout win over LSU, contributions from many different parts. Blake has got something first before we move on.
The ultimate doomsday scenario is setting up exactly how everyone outside of the SEC wants it. Skylar notes here, the committee has got that one little slight thing now. They can anoint the Duke Blue Devils as the top overall seed because Auburn lost a game. Oh, boy. I don't think it's going to happen, but
even I'm not that big a pessimist.
Again, we've said it many times. I mean, come on. Auburn could lose on Saturday, lose the first round of the SEC tournament. They should still be the number one overall seed, period. No debate.
Yeah. And I think that had to be in the back of Auburn's heads going into last night. Now, that's a team that's competed night in and night out regardless, but there was a significant margin for error.
Oh,
and as Virginia points out, well,
don't forget this. Bubba was a little giddy about Auburn being the number one overall seed in the top 16 reveal. So I think we'll be okay.
Chances North Carolina gets in, I'm going to guess are very high.
Well, if they beat Duke on Saturday, they will be very high.
Right. Which I don't think is happening. But anyway.
I can see it.
Kentucky LSU, Max Barr. The thing that stood out for me for Kentucky was all the absences are giving opportunities to other guys. Colin Chandler has been a piece that's been really good for Kentucky. Almanor played more last night. It was a result of other guys being out. I think Otega Owe, to me, I was read a thing this morning talking about Kentucky losing its go-to scorer in Jackson Robinson. I'm like, what have we been watching? That's Owe. But the point is, it's allowed other guys to step up on the secondary guys on the stage. And I think that's one blessing in some of what's happened with Kentucky is it's allowed the Cats to get some guys, some depth and experience, particularly some freshmen. And I wonder if that's going to pay off for the Cats down the stretch.
I think it will. And you're right about Owe. And that is if they can find a way to keep him for another year, I mean, that is you're talking an preseason all SEC guy you're building around there. At 6'4", 220, 215, but plays like he's 220, just a beast. For LSU, Blake, we sat there on the preview and we were like, we like what LSU's been doing lately. They've been playing tough, but this sets up for the Cats here. This just really sets up for the Cats. And then you add on top of that, no Corey Chest and no Victorious Miller. Already no Jalen Reed. This was a perfect setup here for the Cats. And they played like it was 21-10 after the first 10 minutes. Never looked back.
Okay, just before we get into this, so I don't know if you guys see the developments we have going on in the chat right now, but
no, I
don't. It seems that there is a common thread that is tying together some of our top seeds in the Southeastern 16 tournament bracket. So we've got Skylar, Big Gator EJ, Mother Carol, and Holly, who are all working in the medical field. At the hospital, we got RNs, we got all kinds of stuff. So see, I knew there was something that drew all these great people together.
Yep.
But little did I know that the reason they were here was because Chris Lee paid them off to support his medical theories each and every show. It's all coming full circle. It's all making sense, Max. It's all making sense. But
my wife's an MP. I can't help it.
I know. It's okay.
Yep.
Well, I might need some help from her at the moment. I got about 15 minutes left.
I believe in the injury theory with you. You should know by now.
I don't know if my voice. I need my voice next week. And right now, it's a struggle. But Kentucky, we did say, Max, we thought this was one because LSU had played better. We're like, all right, hey, kind of look at it from that standpoint. Got a shot. maybe. But then we said if you're picking matchups in the SEC, we could not think of sort of one of those complete opposites in terms of the matchups than Kentucky and LSU. And it just felt like this was the ultimate spot for Kentucky to do what they did. And I think that's what sometimes, too, when a team does that, I always say, to me, that can say a lot about them. And it continued the theme, right? We're like, well, Kentucky had just lost a game. You know what that means. They're going to win the next one. That's just how it works with this team. So they should probably just go ahead and pick them to lose on Saturday in Missouri because, I mean, come on. But it's been the up and down nature, but this felt like one where if you were going to exploit some matchups, Kentucky had every ability to do that in this LSU game, and they did it. And I thought that, again, Kentucky fans should be thrilled with that because this is one, given how LSU had been playing, you could have seen this be a game for a while. Really wasn't.
The Cats have not lost on a weekday in a month.
Wow.
Their past 3 losses, it was the past 3 Saturdays. You got to go back to February 4th as we sit here March 5th to find the last weekday loss for the Cats. I joked about it last time. Just give them the Friday, Sunday. Don't give them the Thursday, Saturday. Get those Cats out of that Saturday slate, and they're golden. But looking forward to that road game there at Missouri now, which got a little bit more interesting now.
The other guy, and I knew I was forgetting someone I want to shout out, Brandon Garrison. Max, I think you brought him up in a podcast maybe within the last week that I wasn't part of, but good call there. I mean, he has had maybe 2 of his best 3 games in the last 3 games. So he was a guy that was pretty good when he was on the floor at Oklahoma State. Again, for a team that's needed parts on certain nights because some nights you're missing constantly 3 key guys. That is another development to highlight.
I like Garrison. I've been saying
He's your kind of guy.
I like Garrison. He's my type of player. 15 points, 12 points, sandwiched in between the not so great game at Auburn, or home against Auburn. But one thing that's sneaky about Brandon Garrison is his steal rate. Keep an eye on it. He's getting much better defensively with his hands. He's got 8 steals in the past 4 games after only having 2 the entire SEC play. Something's going. Garrison has had a little uptick in defensive intensity. There's a little bit of Kirk Kriisa in Garrison now. He's starting to pick up some cheapies from the referees, and maybe it's going to come back to bite him. But that Kirk Kriisa little spark of, little bulldog starting to come out in Brandon Garrison now. I hope he comes back because that would be a fun little base there of returners. Owe and Garrison with the freshmen all another year. Could be a pretty fun base to work with. We know Pope had a base of 0 to work with last offseason. I'd like to see Garrison.
I thought we might get a "what do I do with my hands" joke out of Blake, but I think his voice is about gone. So, hey, look at this too. Did you check out where Kentucky ranks in defense this morning?
58, right?
They're really getting better on that end of the floor. What were they in the hundreds like a month ago? I think they were.
Yeah, like not my kind of team anymore.
Like, do you know how hard that is to move up that many spots this late in the year?
Weren't they in the 120s? And we were like, we got to get the defense a little bit better to get to Alabama's like 111 or 112.
Yeah, they were. I think they were right where Alabama was, like the exact same spot.
I think they dropped to like 112 or something. I don't think they got further down than that. Maybe they did, but I think 112 was as far as it went. But Alabama finished 111 last year, so we were kind of looking at
Here's a cool note, and it's actually from Brandon Ramsey, our guy at KSR, pulling out one of our Bart Torvik sample size things. 8 games, last 8 games for Kentucky. So basically the last month. Where do you think Kentucky's defense ranks in the nation over the last 8 games, last 4 weeks?
I think got to be top 20, right? I mean, given how far Kentucky moved up.
16.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've got the – I mean, it's a small sample size. It's an 8-game sample size. But still, you double it if you want to say, all right, the numbers are small sample, double it. Okay, 32nd, whatever. There's like really good defense over the last month of basketball.
Well, and that tells you how good the offenses in this league are, because that includes giving up 82 to Texas, 96 to Alabama, 94 to Auburn, and 82 to Oklahoma.
Yes. I think we don't appreciate Amari Williams enough. I think we try our best to, but his impact and how much better he's gotten even just since November. He's a big I know Lamont Butler's a big reason why him coming back, but Amari Williams has gotten so much better throughout the year. That's a big reason why the defensive numbers are getting better too. Ready to jump around?
Yeah, I was going to see. I'm getting back to the scoreboard. I can't remember who we had. Let's go. Do you want to go Georgia or Texas?
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
We have more people who care about that game. Like, let's just call it what it is. I mean, we have more people in here that care about that game. So, yeah, big win for the Hogs. And, I mean, let's just go ahead. We'll talk about the game. Well, trust me, but everybody's kind of moved on from the actual analysis of the game, and they're more looking at what does it mean for Arkansas's NCAA tournament hopes. And, yeah, we picked Vanderbilt. Both of us did. We know what we're trying to do here for the Hogs. We got to fuel them to victory.
Yes.
And so Hudson the GOAT, long time. Are the Hogs going dancing now? If the tournament was played today, Arkansas would be in. No questions asked. Lenardi also said, as Tyler noted here, he was asked who's in between Arkansas and Georgia, and he said Arkansas because I think they're the better team. Tyler says he thought that was a wild statement. Disagree. Well, he did say that before the Vanderbilt and Arkansas game. And, I mean, Arkansas came out and played well. But I don't know that I would say there's a huge gap between them necessarily, in my opinion. But, yeah, I mean, Georgia feels like they've been a little more consistent here recently. I mean, they've won 3 in a row, including the win over Florida. But I think for Arkansas coming out of remember, it's not just that they beat Vanderbilt, it's that they beat Vanderbilt by 13 on the road. That's going to matter to the computers. They moved up 8 spots in the net after that. That's a gigantic leap for them. So I think Arkansas is getting closer to staying out of Dayton. And I think as long as they don't lose by like 15 or something on Saturday at home to Mississippi State, I think they're going to get in. At worst, they'll be in Dayton. But I think that was the one, to me, that clinched it for them.
To me, the big thing last night was Trevon Brazile, who just like I bet we've gone 6 weeks without mentioning his name, probably at points of the season. And I still think back to, and this is all from memory, I think they were playing at the Thanksgiving tournament 2 years ago. I just remember how impressive he looked, and then he got hurt and just really has not been, I thought at the time was on the verge of being a big breakout guy. Last night he goes, 16 and 14, hits a couple of big threes. When you got him and Big Z out there pounding threes the way they were last night, I mean, even without Thero, who they didn't have, there may not have been 10 teams in the country that would beat in Arkansas last night. And I just, sometimes the thing that I question with Cal, among other things, is he just gets locked into that rotation. And if you're either in it or you're not, and you've got some talented players that kind of get left behind. He's been one of them. And I'm not even saying I'm not there. Maybe that was the right decision, but it's kind of been interesting to me. He's a guy that just feels like was on the verge of big things a couple years ago. It stalled out, and then last night was kind of a reminder, oh, wait, I'm still here and can I have one of these kind of games if we need it.
No Boogie Flynn, no Adu Thero. Still fighting, getting things done. Really impressive. Really impressive. When we did this preview, Blake, we're saying, Arkansas is going to be fighting for their life, but it's going to be tough to do without Thero. And you get a near perfect performance from Trevon Brazile, given what we were expecting from him. You add 21 from John L. Davis. That's the other angle here of Arkansas that kind of adding to their run here, February, March. John L. Davis was not healthy to start the season, really not healthy to start SEC play. Been looking fantastic, 18 shots. He's back to that high volume offensive threat. Loved the minutes from Billy Richmond defensively. 7 turnovers offensively, a bit too much, but still, that's Billy the Kid. You're just letting Billy go do his thing. That's his role. So the improved production from Billy and Carter Knox, the 2 freshmen, that's been a big thing, and it's kind of all come together. But when you're looking at the tournament picture, one big thing that helped them, like one swap that just happened last night, was San Diego State lost to UNLV and got bounced back. So now San Diego State, I'm seeing on Last Four In on Bubble Talk. I haven't seen the Aztecs there in a while, but Arkansas winning that game now just swapped those 2 teams. So it was a nice night for the Hogs tournament hopes.
Yeah, as Flying Blind says here, I think when you're looking at Arkansas' seeding potential now after a win like that, again, right now I'm probably thinking they're 10. I mean, that sounds about right. Now, if they beat Mississippi State on Saturday, that's another good win. That moves you, which, by the way, it's going to be a quad 2 game, not a quad 1 now, because Mississippi State lost last night, so they dropped from 30 to 33. Now a quad 2. I think Arkansas could move up to a 9. SEC tournament-wise, again, how much does it mean after day 1? I don't know, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, look, as we keep saying about all these teams, you want to stay out of the 8-9. But I think 10 sounds about right to me, but it depends on Saturday's result and SEC tournament. So, but I think that was the one that got them in. But again, there are going to be bid stealers out there. You don't want to guarantee anything, but my guess is that pushed them pretty close.
Yeah. Just real quick, Trey asks me, where am I? Just Trey was wondering, where am I seeing these recent projections? If you go to Bracket Matrix, Trey, it's like a conglomerate of all the bracketologists, and you can click this. They have a links little tab where you can click the link, and it'll be the previous winners of the year who've won the Bracket Matrix competition. And I'm referencing 131. They won it last year. So 131 bracketology on Bracket Matrix. Sorry, I just want to get that in.
What's the lag on Bracket Matrix right now? Because I feel like whatever the picture was about like 3 days ago is kind of where they are for the most part. And that's not a shot at them. It takes a long time for people to do their updates and stuff. But I'm just curious if you're finding it to be more accurate this time of the year.
The average is like every few days. But like I said, if you Bracket Matrix has got that link tabs, and if you click the links, it lets you click on each bracketologist that they have. And so you can find ones that are updated fresh.
Yeah. Let's see. Texas?
Well, just quickly for Vanderbilt, I think that Vanderbilt fans should not be that upset with the loss, because now I think you're staying out of the 8-9 potentially. That now you're like, we want to get towards a 7 or a 10. You probably were going to wind up closer to a 10 than a 7. But so now,
I don't know. They were starting to get closer to the 8. The cutoff of the 8-9. I don't know how much losing at home to Arkansas moves that. I mean, the problem too, and this is where it gets hard to figure. These are impact games, but they're also like 3% of the schedule. So I don't know. I mean, you might be right. I'm not sure.
I don't think they would have been an 8 as of yesterday. So because they would have still been a 9 and they lost, I agree that didn't hurt them much. But again, I think that they were further away still from the 7 than they were maybe dropping back to the 10. And so again, I mean, you're going to be playing tough games no matter whether you're in the 8, 9, 10, whatever. But I know that was the whole debate yesterday, was Vanderbilt fans were like, hey, get us back to the 10 if we can't get to the 7. And I think now you're like, okay, maybe you're going to get back to the 10, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm looking. Bracket Matrix has got the 8s right now: Illinois, BYU, Gonzaga, Connecticut. I think Illinois, Gonzaga, Connecticut have all spent time in various top 10s this year, and BYU has been just red hot. So, Blake, you've done this a long time. Do you remember a year where, like, the 9 seed was less desirable than it's? I mean, because not only do you have to play a tough 8, but you've got all the 1s. Like, has there ever been a worse year to be a 9 potentially? And look, it may all change. These teams may go on a run. None of those teams may be on the 8 line or even the 9 line. I don't know. But it's been a topic of conversation, and I do think it's interesting because I don't usually remember it being this much talent on those lines.
No, I think it's a good point. I also think probably if you're a 1 seed, you may be saying the opposite. And could we really see Illinois, UConn, or Gonzaga sitting there waiting for us in the second round and wondering? I mean, one of those teams could be a 9 seed, right? Like, who knows?
Yeah.
And that's what. So, I think it's an interesting thing because in name, you're going to look at those teams and say, man, somebody's going to have them in the Final Four just because of what they've achieved. But you also look at the actual teams and they're not like what we're used to seeing. And so it will be interesting. Yeah. I mean, and that's where, again, even if you're an SEC team, there is the chance you're going to get another SEC team as the 1 if you've not played them twice. So that's going to be interesting.
Well, and I'll give you a point to illustrate it. I'm just looking at the predictives. Let's say Tennessee gets a 1 and Gonzaga gets an 8. Now, I think the line would be bigger than this, but if you just go strictly by what those are saying, it'd be about a 2 to 3 point line in Tennessee's favorite.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel like a reward for being a 1. But anyway, that's the place we're living, which makes it interesting. Are we ready to talk Texas for a minute? Because my goodness, if you didn't see Texas Mississippi State last night, maybe the best game of the evening just for entertainment value. In fact, I would say that it was. Trey Johnson out there doing Trey Johnson things. We had the return of big things from Tramon Mark. We had Texas just about having it sealed up, blowing it because it couldn't get the ball across half court. And as for Mississippi State, I mean, maybe the best news is they don't play the NCAA tournament in Starkville because, boy, those guys are struggling to win at home right now.
This was a fun game to watch. This was just – Tramon Mark was vintage Mr. Big Shot. If you watched this game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Every time Mississippi State inched a little bit closer, crawled a little bit closer, Trey Johnson skipped past to Tramon Mark. It happened 3 or 4 times. Tramon Mark 4 of 6 from 3. I'm telling you, 3 of those 4 made 3-pointers were off some incredible Trey Johnson drive, double team, somehow finds Mark out of the corner of his eye. Those 2 had a great connection, Johnson and Mark, and we didn't even know if Tramon was going to play. We had no clue. He was questionable. Didn't even know if he was going to play. Gives him 24. That's what they were missing. I feel like we have had a tendency this year to maybe just, okay, well, everyone's injured, okay, everybody's got an injury, deal with it. Tramon Mark being out for Texas has really impacted them. They're 0-2 in SEC play when he doesn't play. So he's a major factor. For Mississippi State, Blake, it was much of the same as with what we've seen from the defense. Wide open shots for Texas. You step in, you can collect yourself and focus and get the shot off. Wide open shots. They had a great game plan for Josh Hubbard, doubled him every time he touched the ball, but it's the same. It's just the reason why it's concerning is it's the same story. Wide open shots on the perimeter defensively they're letting up.
Yeah, they're one of those teams that if you're trying to find the right matchup, I don't know who it is at this point. We always can kind of just key in on certain styles, and we're like, all right, they're going to be great against that style. Mississippi State, I don't know. I don't know who it is. like because they just are so. I text Max and said they're going to either be in the Final Four or they're going to lose in the first round by 15. And I don't know what the in between is because I just, it's just been very streaky. And I mean, I say that low. It's like I want to feel good about Texas coming out of this game. I really do. But can I? I mean, they had just lost by 16 at home. They lost at South Carolina by 15. And I know it's like, well, having Tremont Marcus a difference. Well, yeah, he played in that South Carolina game too, didn't he? And it's like, so I don't know. I don't know what to expect. Like these two teams are probably put them in the same category. I mean, probably the two most frustrating teams to figure out, maybe in the SEC, because you see they both have game-changing talent at the top with Trey Johnson and Josh Hubbard, and yet, sure, yeah, I mean, the supporting cast, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not, and so it's going to be interesting to see where both these teams wind up in a bracket because, again, you could see them in the right scenario winning a couple games, but it's also my trust in them. It's not real high in either one of them, even in what I thought was probably a top 5 game in the SEC this year. It's just, now I don't know what to make of these two heading into Saturday's games and beyond.
Yep, Blake brought up a good point. I think they and Kentucky, and we've talked about this before, the two most frustrating teams in the league, for different reasons. Kentucky's personnel, and State's had it too, although that injury's been one that it's been able to deal with for a while because it's been a 3-month thing. But I think maybe, and I don't want to put all the blame on this guy, but he's kind of the poster child for their inconsistency, and that's Riley Kugel, who's just a knockdown free throw shooter. And if he can just hit one in a key spot last night, what he missed, were the two that he missed in regulation, Max, or were they in overtime? I want to say they were regulation, but I'm not sure. But anyway, I mean,
it was regulation.
Yeah, I mean, you get one of those and it doesn't go to overtime, probably. That's just the thing. I think for Kugel, when he's got his confidence, he's a game changer. We've talked about him before. I know, Max, you spent a lot of the past couple off seasons hyping him up, and that's not a shot at you. The talent's there.
Right.
But there's some nights it just disappears, and I don't know what his role is going to be going forward. I mean, it'll be interesting because, again, when you tap into it and he's there, they can beat about anybody. But last night they needed him to give more than they had, and it feels like a kid whose confidence gets shot in spells, and it bit them last night.
Yeah, this is a team in Mississippi State where, say, because what are they projected right now? A 7? Yeah, this is a 7. So say they get Michigan State or Wisconsin as the 2, St. John's, Texas Tech, whoever you want there in that 2 spot. This is a team, like Blake said, in Mississippi State that I could confidently pick, like, okay, I have seen this time and time again. They don't defend the 3-point line well at all. They got Baylor, the 10 seed, who I know can just light it up from 3. I don't feel confident picking Mississippi State to win this first round game. And then I can also see them going to the Elite 8 because Josh Hubbard goes on a tear and Keshawn Murphy's a matchup nightmare, and they're a tough team to beat at times. I have no clue. Hands are up with, I think I texted Blake last night. I think I said, like, has Mississippi State, or no, I was responding to Zach. Me and Zach were talking on Twitter. I was like, I think Mississippi State has taken the throne from Kentucky for the most unpredictable team. I have no clue what to do with Mississippi State anymore. No clue.
Let's talk Texas a minute. I thought Trey Johnson was, man, did you see that 3 hit from the right wing late in the game? Like, he's got a guy on him. He just takes – his release is so quick. Like, you can just spot who the NBA players are in this league a lot of times, and, like, that's an easy one. I don't know if there's a guy that can get his shot off and get it off quicker. I mean, he's certainly I got 3 in my mind that are just lightning fast at doing that. 2 of them were playing in that game last night, by the way. You can probably guess the other one. But I'm hoping Texas makes it to the NCAA tournament because there's just the curious part of me that goes, can Trey Johnson, I know they got other parts. You saw it with Mark last night, but, like, he is good enough to where everybody in the building knows where the ball's going, and he can still hit that shot to beat you.
Blake, confidence level on the Longhorns making the NCAAs. If you had to put are you at like 30%, 40%? Coin flip?
50%.
Coin flip, okay.
Because, I mean, all you got to do, in my opinion, is beat Oklahoma on Saturday.
Now that.
I think they're in.
Yeah.
Has that turned into a win? Is that a play-in game?
I don't. If people think that, I am not as concerned. I'm not as sold. Because if Oklahoma loses tonight, I'm not sold that they're. I think they got way more work to do than beating Texas.
Yeah.
But
is
if
Oklahoma
wins tonight,
oh, sorry.
If they win tonight, then I think it could be.
I was going through it this morning. Is Oklahoma locked into the 14 for sure? I know there's a possibility of a tie with wins, and I think if they beat Texas, it's 1-1. Then it goes to what, highest team in the standings, that sort of thing. I didn't have time to do all the math, and probably wouldn't trust it even if I did. But
right now, there's no way, because even if that happened, if they finish with the same record, both their best win would be who?
Yeah, I didn't get to that part.
It'd be Missouri, right?
Okay.
But that would mean Texas would beat Missouri, Oklahoma would beat Missouri tonight, so then all of a sudden we're in the same spot again. So we'd have to keep going down to know where everybody else is going to finish, and there's still no way of knowing. So
yeah, that's the point. That's when I sized it up. I came to that too. I didn't immediately know, but so I think we've got. And by the way, we've got other games to get to. We've got South Carolina, LSU, and Auburn. I think are the only teams that are locked into the slots for the tournament. Is that correct?
Oh, I'm not sure. That's my weak spot.
LSU at the 15, Carolina at 16, Auburn at the 1. I mean, I did a quick look at it, and I couldn't make any other immediate judgments on that. So
if Oklahoma loses out and LSU wins, right?
Say that again.
If Oklahoma loses out and LSU wins on Saturday, they both have the same
I didn't
record.
think of that. Yeah, okay.
LSU beat
scratch
Oklahoma.
that then. It didn't even occur to me that LSU could go over Oklahoma.
Yep.
Okay, well, so I guess there's two.
Until tonight's games are over with, there's no point in doing the tiebreakers. I tried to do it yesterday, and it's pointless. So.
No, I'm with you.
Blake is losing his voice right now because he tossed and turned with the tiebreakers yesterday.
Yeah, that's it. I was up all night. Oklahoma, 14. No, 13. Kentucky 9. No, 10. 4, 3. No. All night, man. That's what it was.
Tossing and turning.
Yeah.
You know who's not tossing and turning? The dogs.
Bracket bids.
Bracket bids.
Them two.
I better get this read in because I don't know if I'm going to. Yeah. Bracket bids.
Hand in hand.
Take your college hoops experience to the next level with bracket bids. Enter into the free pick'em contest or start an auction draft league. Guess who started an auction draft league this morning? Yours truly. When I was tossing and turning, I was thinking I better start an auction draft league with bracket bids right now.
Yep.
So we've got our league set up. We're going to do that. My guess is probably the Monday after the tournament or maybe that Sunday night. We may be a little busy. We'll find out. We're going to do a league with some of our members here at Southeastern 16. Join in if you want to win the lottery. I mean, we're not going to give you lottery money. Let's rephrase that. You just get to join bracket bids, which is kind of like winning the lottery if you think about it. Everyone starts with the same bidding dollars. It's up to you to outwit and outbid your league mates. Secure the teams you think go the distance. Choose from the multiple scoring models, including the upset bonuses, to reward the bold picks. Track your teams with live in-game scoring. Watch the standings shift in real time. The further your teams advance, the higher you climb the standings. For league play, use that promo code SE16 for 40% off. SE16, 40% off. Download the Bracket Bids app today.
When?
Today.
There you go.
This man is running on fumes, Max.
You don't get any
I don't
days
know
off at
what's up, but
Southeastern
you-
16.
No.
Max and I will get a
broke
day off next year sometime.
You broke a glass next to Brett, next to Big Baller Brett.
Well, Big Baller Brett's going to be breaking a lot of glass tonight when the Gators come out and score 105.
Oh, man. Shots fired. Let's talk Georgia. Georgia goes and knocks off South Carolina despite the umpteenth good performance in a row from Colin Murray-Boyles. I thought Georgia's backcourt was really solid last night. Not outstanding, but solid. Georgia hit its free throws. It didn't turn the ball over. Of course, neither did South Carolina. Blue Cane hit a couple of big shots for them last night, as Blue Cane is wont to do. Max Barr, what did we take away from the Bulldogs last night?
Okay, well, first, the broadcast could not say Silas Demery's name to save their lives. I mean, it was Silas Emery, it was Silas Demery, Silas Demery. They could not get it right. I don't know how we're in March and you can't get Silas Demery's name right, but that was driving me nuts all game. Speaking of him, though, he's been fantastic, coming off the SEC Player of the Week award. Number one area of offseason for Mike White and Georgia. Keep Silas Demery. Need to keep Silas Demery. He's going to be one of the better players in the league if Georgia's able to get him to stay next year. But I think this was as simple as Georgia's got the height to kind of not get bullied inside by South Carolina, by Murray-Boyles and Pringle like they tend to do. And Georgia was basically playing for their season. You win and you're in was probably the motivation there. Georgia surprisingly playing some of their best basketball of the season after a skid conference play that we couldn't get the offense going from January 15th to February 22nd. Only beat South Carolina and LSU with some really close contests in there. Now 3 in a row. Guys, I don't know about you, but I don't want to see Georgia in March Madness if I'm the opponent. I want nothing to do with this team, how they're playing right now.
Well, we all saw it coming with the Dogs. It was just a matter of time before they turned it around. No, in all seriousness. Yeah, they're in. I would like to declare that they are in the tournament. At worst, they're heading to Dayton, but I think they're probably in a pretty good position to stay out of there if they can win this game on Saturday against Vanderbilt. If they do that, there's no chance they're heading to Dayton, I think. I think, again, that they were just like these other teams, 4-10. You're like, all right, desperation mode. What is the motivation level? And they came out and they've handled their business since then. 2 tricky road games at Texas and South Carolina for different reasons, and they won both of them. Beat Florida at home. And now, you get a Vanderbilt team that kind of feels like coming off that Arkansas game. That's a decent setup for Georgia, I would think, heading into the SEC tournament. And, when we talk about potential seeding in the SEC tournament, I think for Georgia, they're sitting there at 7-10. If they beat Vanderbilt on Saturday, guess what?
They move up.
Yeah.
They move up. Because they both have the same record. Georgia would hold the tiebreaker. So there's some incentive there. And also, well, never mind. They don't have a chance in that tiebreaker. Because if they were in the same tiebreaker with Mississippi State beat them, right? So they would not hold that one. But if it got to like 3 or 4 team tiebreakers, you never know because it's all about percentages and that kind of stuff then. But yeah, so Georgia's got a chance to move up to that. What would that be, the 10 seed? All right. Yeah. I guess there is a scenario where they can move up higher, but I'd have to look at it. So
yeah. Funny what happens when the schedule eases up. Georgia's played the number 1 conference schedule according to Ken Palm, but not that at South Carolina and Texas are easy, but it's easier than the stretch of games they had before, which included at Auburn, Missouri at home, at A&M, Mississippi State at home.
Well, I wouldn't count Florida as an easing up of the schedule.
Well, no, it wasn't. But that was I misstated it. That was one of the games they won. The Texas and South Carolina parts would be the relative easing of the schedule, as would the one with Vanderbilt. Again, not that they are easy, but it's a lot easier than playing Alabama, Tennessee, all the teams in the conversation for the the one line, which they have run the gauntlet of so far. So, man, I mean, I'm thinking about last night. Other than maybe LSU beating Kentucky, just from a sort of a chaos standpoint and making things interesting, that the night couldn't have given us a whole lot more than it gave us.
Chris, does January 15th mean anything to you? It feels like it was a long time ago, right?
Was that January? I was thinking about this today. Was that the day that that South Carolina and Auburn played, or was that the day before, or the game before?
No, you're going down a different path than I'm going on right here. January 15th was 14 games ago for the Georgia Bulldogs, and that was the last time Blue Cane didn't make a three. He is on a 13-game streak with a made three-pointer. Him starting to be a consistent outside threat, and Tyron Lawrence getting healthy off that. I think it was a hamstring or a calf that kept him out of a few games. But those two, Lawrence and Blue Cane, starting to just be consistent right next to Demery. That's a big reason why Georgia's starting to play better.
Well, where my head went with it was, I was thinking back to, I was looking something up, the Auburn, South Carolina game, the one in Columbia where Carolina almost pulled the upset but didn't, and Broome got hurt. And man, that's been almost 2 months ago now.
Seems like
and
forever.
I'm like, that feels like that was 2 weeks ago. Which got me to just thinking is I know we all kind of enjoy getting to the finish line and seeing where the tournament seeds and who's in the NCAA tournament. And that's what we live for. But I was just thinking last night, and you're seeing it in the chats lately, this has been so much fun. Just the basketball night in and night out. You've got 4 or 5 SEC teams in competition for a 1 seed. You got teams in the 12, 13, 14 marks that can beat anybody any given night, that we're talking about, hey, they might not just get in the tournament, they might avoid Dayton. I mean, I just don't think you could have drawn up basketball this year any better in the SEC than we've seen. The only thing that I wish is we had, and I know it's a running joke, but I wish we'd had a fully healthy Adu Thero or Kirk Risa or some of the big dudes that have missed time in the sleep. That would have been about the only thing that could have made the season better than it has been.
I think you could replace SEC with any other conference and say the exact same thing. Just because I think, again, like we said, if you look at it from the number standpoint, this is the best we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, any conference would love to be in this spot, but there can only be one. And sometimes to get there, it's just got to be more. It's got to mean more to you to be able to have this kind of year. And so, yeah. That's
you know who agrees with you, Blake?
Who's that?
Big Gator EJ.
Oh, yeah.
With the
$5
$5 super chat.
Goodness.
Smart man. So
13
smart
SEC teams have more ranked wins than the Dukies. It just means more. Big Gator EJ, $5 super chat.
All right. Let's get to a couple of things from earlier. Joshua I know was weighing in on the Arkansas-Georgia debate. If only they played each other. Well, yeah, I know. Well, sometimes we use that here. Cole said he's ready for the chaos bracket. Don't worry, Cole. Tomorrow, I think we're going to give you a chaos bracket because I'll be able to update the SEC tournament bracket tomorrow after tonight's games. So, speaking of which, Skylar asked, what are tonight's games? You got Missouri, Oklahoma. My brain's not working. I don't even know. Florida, Alabama. Who's the other game?
Tennessee, Ole Miss.
Tennessee, Ole Miss. Tonight's big games. More big games here. So, another great slate.
Have you seen the spreads yet, Blake?
Have not.
All right, I want you to guess them. Florida at Alabama.
We said we thought it could be a pick 'em. So Alabama -1.5.
-3.5.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
They clearly saw my pick and said, that young man knows something.
Missouri at Oklahoma.
I mean, Missouri minus 1.5, maybe.
Missouri minus 4.5.
Oh no! Oh no!
I know!
Oh,
I know!
no.
I know!
Oh no!
I know!
Well,
Yeah.
my money line bet. I have to leave. I need to go place a bet right now. You got to be kidding me! 4.5. I hate that number for the road team every single time.
Yep.
Okay.
What is home court now? About 5?
More like 3.
I don't think it's 5. I think that's a lot.
It feels like 5 here in some of these lines because I don't know how otherwise. Alabama's 3.5.
And then the last one, Tennessee at Ole Miss.
Tennessee minus 2.5.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
So,
I'm picking all the home teams tonight. I'm doing a parlay home team trio. Just pick all the home teams. Let's see what we do here. So.
Max, the reason I say I'm looking at what the computers would set the lines at, and the 3 that you have given me, if you take the difference between the favorite and the underdog, and then you add in 5 points, that is exactly where they settle. So right now, either we got a real small sample size, or the odds makers are giving 5 to teams at home.
We have 3 matchups with top 15. Feature a top 15 team, and the largest spread is 4.5 points. Tonight's gonna be fun.
All right. Robert earlier said shut up Blake. That could have been for a variety of reasons. We'll just apply it to something.
Well,
I think it was probably about me talking about
is a concern
Georgia's
for your
schedule.
voice.
That's right. Robert always getting on me about something these days. I'm all in on the dogs. Who let the dogs in? Silas DeMary.
South Carolina let the dogs in.
Demara.
Emery.
It's Demery, folks. Come on.
They said every name but Demery.
Come on. Man. Here's a pop quiz. Say Big Z's last name. Pronounce it correctly. Can anyone do that?
Ivisic?
I think that's it.
Say it again.
Ivisic?
Say it again, Chris.
Ivisic?
I think it's Ivisic.
Ivisic. We're close.
I thought it was Ivisic. I thought there was another E. Ivisic.
Hey, you bring up a good point.
I
don't think the TV guys even know for sure how to pronounce these names, because I cannot tell me how many names I have heard pronounced multiple ways this year, and it's confusing the heck out of me. I'm like, I thought it was this, and then you hear no shot at the network guys. They're pronouncing it differently, so I don't even know with half these names anymore.
I'm still hearing Fiero.
Yeah, Fiero.
Yeah. Is someone still calling him Fiero?
I've heard it.
Well, that proves what I'm saying.
Yeah. All right. May have missed our thoughts, but Oklahoma win tonight. Get the SEC 13 in the tournament. I'm just not, and I may be wrong here. I'm just not of the opinion that Oklahoma's in tonight if they win. I think they still got work to do. I do, but we'll see. Again, it matters what everyone else does on the bubble, but I'm not totally sold that they're in just with a win tonight.
No, I think he means in the SEC tourney. Because they're not getting they're not getting a 13 as an at large.
No, I thought he meant the SEC. Hold on, I thought he meant is the SEC getting 13 teams in the NCAA tournament.
Oh, okay.
But
I read that as does get him the 13 seed.
I think that's
that yours makes more sense.
Right now they're on the outside.
Yeah.
So, Carter, gut check. Who's winning the SEC tournament? Well, come on, Carter. We don't have a bracket yet. Like, we got to update the bracket after tonight. Tomorrow we'll give you the gut, chaos, whichever you want to call it, bracket for the SEC tournament tomorrow. If I have a voice. If not, I'll draw the mascots on the screen for my picks.
Is Texas A&M going to be ranked number 1 in next week's AP poll? Is the real question.
People are asking.
Yeah, I've heard it being asked.
People are asking.
Here's what I'm asking. We don't know the seeds in the SEC tournament yet, but chances somebody that doesn't get the double bye can win it. And I'll tell you, see, I don't know. I mean, there are teams that are good enough to do it, but like you're going to have to win 3 games against a brutally tough field as it is, and then add having to win a 4th, and then 4 in 4 days. To me, that feels like a big ask.
Yeah, true. I just feel like it's going to be someone we don't expect.
Usually is.
All right. Well, I'm moving on out of here.
Blake's done. Put him on the stretch.
But there's only one way I know to move out of this stream. Sanders moving.
Nice.
They're the people I call to move out of this stream. Because, as you know, Sanders Moving, formerly known as Ted R. Sanders Moving or Sanders Logistics, a leader among moving companies in Nashville, Tennessee, and the surrounding area. They're a team of professional movers focused on delivering efficient, hassle-free moving at an affordable price. Whether you're moving across town or across the country, Sanders Moving has you covered. Visit them at tedrsandersmoving.com. Moving.
All right. All right. Enough.
I think that's number 14 there.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
I keep waiting for you to get past the 13 or 14 line, but that hasn't happened yet.
I'm always a number 1 seed. Just like Max Barr. Chris, I see you as an 8-9. looking to spoil the party for us. That's the way I see it.
That's
looking to spoil our Final Four national championship run. You're out to take one of us out as the number 1 seed. And you've decided you want to play the spoiler.
If I'm not busy covering baseball.
Baseball.
I see baseball.
Which brings me
seed.
Coming up next.
15
to
seed.
the next 10 minutes from now. Alfred Esmond, Graham Doty, and I will be talking SEC midweeks. There were a couple of notable things that happened. Tomorrow's baseball stream, and we're starting these about 10:15 Central every day. We'll look forward to a weekend, which frankly won't be the best weekend of SEC baseball because it's the weekend before SEC on SEC starts, so teams have scheduled accordingly. But there is always stuff to talk about when 16 teams play series and when they play midweek games. So we will unpack all that in a minute. Stay here for that. Again, 10:15. For Max Barr, for Blake Lovell and his struggling voice. You've been watching Southeastern 16. Thanks for watching. God bless you. We'll see you again soon.